Well, this sucks then. We've seen something that is an absolute microcosm of the sorts of things that are going wrong in gaming. It, of course, comes from Warner Brothers Games. Now, I know obviously WB Games have had a massive success recently, but we still have to remember who they are. We still have to remember how Lord of the Rings Shadow of Mordor turned into Lord of the Rings Shadow of War, the game where, of course, they deepened the gearing system of the Nemesis, orcs, basically so they could sell you loot boxes to put loot on the orcs to make them more strong. It's very silly and very annoying, and they've done it again. The new Suicide Squad game is not the successor to the Arkham series, but it is being made by the people who made that series, Rocksteady. Rocksteady, who are very well regarded in the industry, who have made absolutely fantastic games, and now we have an always online, even in single player mode, Gearscore based shooter that also happens to be Kevin Conroy's last spoken role as Batman, which absolutely has people quite sad. This is the culmination of multiple industry trends, and today we're going to work out exactly what's going on, as well as just how so much of AAA seems so very out of touch. And we're going to do it with the help of today's sponsor. You know, phishing attacks. That's where scammers try to dupe you into compromising your security by basically trying to trick you into clicking a fake link. Well, NordVPN Threat Protection can recognize those malicious links. It can warn you before anything goes wrong, stopping the threat dead in its tracks, plus so much more. And nordvpn.com/Bellular News is where you'll find a free month plus a bonus gift with my code, so just click that link down below. Now, Nord, obviously, as a VPN, lets you browse the web from anywhere in the world, which lets you do a lot. I regularly use Nord to access region-restricted streaming content. You can also use Nord to access, well, interesting regional pricing, such as the price gouging that a lot of rental car companies do based on your location. They'll also protect you from so many threats, like phishing that we talked about, and man-in-the-middle attacks, which is basically where people make a fake Wi-Fi network, called Coffee Shop Wi-Fi, and they try to pwn you with that. There's also their dark web monitor. You just add your email credentials, and they will alert you whenever your credentials appear in a data breach. And often those are basically sold around the dark web, and then people try to scam you. So much more too, like with NordPass that makes passwords secure, convenient, and dead easy. Of course, all on their app and browser extension that are super easy to use across your devices. And you can get a free month plus a bonus gift at nordvpn.com/Bellular News with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So then, Matt, don't you absolutely love it when Gearscore, you log out of World of Warcraft and suddenly Gearscore is following you absolutely everywhere you go, especially where it doesn't really fit?
I'm so tired. I am existentially exhausted, spiritually exhausted of thinking video games and video game developers are doing very good work. And then you see the results of that work through whatever reason designs take this route and go, why? Why are you doing the worst, laziest thing you possibly could to completely destroy all of your hard work? Why? Why are you doing this?
And I think there's a very obvious reason. These are all people who are absolutely capable of making fantastic combat and a fantastic game. We know it from the Arkham series, but ultimately it comes down to what their bosses want. Because their bosses don't want them to make a game that you play for 20, 30, or 40 hours. They want to make a 500-hour game, a 1,000-hour game. That is why we see so much of this happen. In the worst cases, it feels like, something's being turned into a live service. You have a situation where, on the one hand, you have the Guardians of the Galaxy sort of character action-y game that ends up being really fun and not having loads of bullshit. And on the other side of the fence, you see the Avengers being the Avengers, a humongous mistake. And here we basically have that treatment being applied to Rocksteady's next game. Now, to really punctuate the level of disappointment that people have felt here, not only is this a continuation of a trend that people are frankly sick of, but it also is a perfect example of a developer who can do brilliant work basically being forced to do something that sabotages their own work, as you just said. The thing here being, when you actually look at the gameplay of this, there could be plenty in there that's fun, right? It all looks quite well executed, but it's going to be stretched out, spread out with some lovely, power levels, dynamic scaling, do the campaign, then split the campaign into missions. Now each one of those missions is a form of repeatable content. Maybe you can do them with affixes and modifiers and all these things to the degree where suddenly what could have maybe been a fantastic 20-hour game, if it was wholly designed to be that, has now become a compromised 500-hour game that people won't even want to put 50 or maybe even 5 hours into.
I just don't get it anymore. It's to the point where I'm actually running out of patience for going for even being annoyed. It's just, oh yeah, you're doing what you're doing. Because I watched that overview trailer, the recent one from the State of Play, and I swear to God, you could not write something funnier if you tried. Because that went for, it was about 8 minutes long, and the first 6 minutes were just, hey, here's all the work we've put into our characters, here's some of our nice facial animations, here's the voice work been very strong, here's generally our ideas, it's a pretty, our ideas rather, it's a pretty interesting take on stuff. Okay, sure, maybe it's not the most there's going to be a 10 out of 10 narrative, but it sounds like a good experience. Oh, look at that, you've got all your character movement. They're at least a little bit more differentiated than Gotham Knights movement was. So you have people going around and go, oh yeah, Harley Quinn swinging. Oh, it's a little Spider-Man. Oh, sweet. There's Deadshot's got the jetpack. Okay, I could see you picking your character out of the four and having fun with them. And then at 6 minutes in, so there's a number that goes up. It's called your Gearscore. And then when it goes up, you get to do more levels. And I'm like, the comedic timing of that was incredible.
Oh yeah.
Because you're 5.5 minutes in going, yeah, Rocksteady, this looks like a pretty good Rocksteady game. Not quite sure why everyone's using a gun, but we'll think about that later. And then as soon as he says that, it clicks. You go, oh no! Why? Why have you done this? Why are you like this? Why do you do this every time? Please help. And we're not the only ones who feel that way.
Absolutely. And it's more than just that, because squeezing a game into this format means that your design just can't be as tight. Like, almost all of the time it does. Yeah. So as an example, we saw a weapon that had the affix does 21% more damage to Batman-infused enemies.
Sure.
We saw characters fighting a tank in the gameplay. That the gameplay is what was shared and widely mocked, and that's the hilarious thing. If you watched the full thing with, the 6 minutes of developers talking, and then they talk about the RPG bit, for that first 6 minutes, you're under the impression this could probably be a pretty damn reasonable game. It's quite funny then that the thing that obviously got shared was the gameplay, the bit where the mask is off and you see what the game truly ends up being. And that's the thing that spreads. Even people seeing fighting a tank, and it's just, oh, this has been completely homogenized. Why are we destroying purple goo in a tank? That doesn't feel like fighting a tank. This is weird. And then you start to realize, wait, why is it like that? Why is it like that? Why is there Batman-infused enemies that I have to deal extra Batman, infused enemy damage to? Why are they all using guns in this way? Because, you then think, well, look at the type of game it is. If you're doing a big loot shooter like this, yeah, guns are actually pretty damn good in your design space.
Yeah, if you want to make a loot shooter, you need to have loot and you need to have shoot. And there you go. Done. Easy. Your game is finished. Absolutely. All you have to do is the small details now. You can just be like, what is it? A looter shooter? And someone at the top goes, yeah, people play those. Yeah, look at Destiny. It's great. Look at Division. They're all very, very good. Look at Borderlands. Doesn't everyone love Borderlands? And you gotta go, okay, well, maybe a little bit. And then you just see, here's 7% to your ammo reserves. Yeah, when using this gun, you're like, oh.
To look at this of Harley Quinn, right? So you can see the gear slot she has, 2 firearms and a melee weapon.
Fantastic.
Fun. You look at this epic blade gun, right? And you see suicide strike damage, resource gain, combo damage, shield shield damage. And you're like, really? Is this the vibe of this sort of game? Imagine if all of this was applied to like an Insomniac action game and how it would muddy down the design and make it not feel as good. And then you look at the other things where it's like 10% XP gained, 5 point whatever percent grenade drop chance. It's this thing where, okay, are you just trying to turn everything into Diablo, but ultimately you're making games with a combat system that fundamentally is compromised by the RPGification rather than complemented by it, which is the whole point of something like Diablo or Path of Exile.
Yeah, because the immediate thought that came to my head here was, for a start, you're not going to be able to make any interesting builds because the loot will be auto-generated. The loot will all be random. It'll come at various different times. You'll likely not be able to do all of the things that you can do in a Diablo or a PoE or any loot-based game to get loot that matters. And that's the thing. Those games spent so long making loot feel good, and then everyone went, oh, it's really easy. Can we just do that instead? Without actually doing any of the hard work to make the loot feel interesting. Because I don't know, like Destiny has iterated on that a long time to get to where it is. But you just go, hey, here's your launch game, here's the gear that matters. You're like, no. Even God of War did it. I haven't played Ragnarok, to be clear, but the first one took a stab at that. And even then you can feel how the gear level and how the small things on the gear are like, oh, you've made this worse. This would have been better without this. Maybe not the whole game because of the way all of the side quests and all the other little bits of things, all of the breadcrumbs they have you follow, all of the, oh yeah, get 8 of these to get your achievement and feel happy about yourself. All of those have to give you gear rewards. So it's that kind of, well, we have activities. How do we get people to do them? Gear. Oh, we need a gear system. Okay, throw that in. Versus you look at Insomniac. And I think, what if Insomniac made the Suicide Squad game? And you can see how Rocksteady have all the movement. They have all of like the character stuff. They have the character special abilities. You go, yeah. Now imagine if Insomniac made this, that would be it. The only person who would shoot would be Deadshot because he's got guns. And his character action would be shoot some guns sometimes. In the same way Dante kind of goes.
If it was Marvel's Avengers, it would still be that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the Hulk's not pulling out a gun.
Yeah, exactly. And then you look at Harley Quinn, all of the swinging, all of the fighting, all the stuff. King Shark being very melee oriented, very brawlery. Camperman got speed. You could immediately see the Spider-Man version of this that's way better and doesn't have to go play our game for 20,000 hours because you get some orange loot, and orange is better than purple. Remember that, gamers? You've all played Diablo or some awful version of some game that thought it could be Diablo without doing any of the hard work at all and just going, sorry, we've made a shit game that no one likes.
Yeah, and even Marvel's Avengers goes to show that, like, even when you have all of those character builds, all those different character kits, you have combat design that's actually pretty damn decent most of the time. Fundamentally, we're getting to the stage where replaying the same missions from the campaign's just a load of horseshit that people don't actually enjoy. Like, where's the bit where the industry will collectively realize that we don't like this? The industry's constantly, I think, shown. It's like, yeah, people used to replay parts of an act in Diablo to farm loot in an area, but that's something that's, like, in modern Diablo-like games, they're always trying to shake up and do so, like, pretty damn rapidly. If you look at, say, the seasonal cadence of Path of Exile, yet these big AAA attempts at doing it, even be it Anthem with the Cataclysms. Remember the Cataclysms that were going to come in the summer and save the game? It doesn't work, and it's not worked for years. And then you think, wait, hasn't worked for years. Why has it happened like this? And then I think we have to go to a big decade-long game called Destiny. Because Destiny, look at all that it was meant to do, right? And that was, what year was Destiny?
Oh God, 200 years ago.
2014?
2014, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, right, 2014. Destiny comes out. Definitely has its issues at launch. You get the Taken King. People start to really like Destiny. It all goes pretty well. We see across the whole industry more and more RPGification happening anyway. You see, Shadow of War do really, or Mordor do really well. You see all of these things happen. And then you're like, well, how did these change? How did things change from Ghost Recon Wildlands to Ghost Recon Breakpoint? And you see this common trend in the industry. And you look at this and you're like, how did this happen? When was the last Arkham game that Rocksteady made, and what have they been doing since then? The answer is they've been making this game. And ultimately, I think we do end up with a situation where these games are greenlit so long ago that they're basically, as a concept, out of date by the time that they launch. Because rather than this being the perfect encapsulation of the idea of, like, I forget the plot, but it's basically the Justice League, like, go evil because of some mind control.
Yeah, Brainiac.
Yeah, because of Brainiac.
Yep.
So instead of this being the perfect encapsulation of that from a gameplay perspective, it has to become this muddied down RPG, instead of Ghost Recon Breakpoint being the perfect encapsulation of, in a sort of contemporary, I suppose, near peer conflict, sort of tactical shooting game like you would think with Ghost Recon. Instead, it actually ends up being a bizarre loot shooter divisionified version of itself. So it's like, how do these companies keep on doing this stuff so wrong? And ultimately, it's the same reason why we've been rolling our eyes at Ubisoft. They keep on greenlighting entries in trending gameplay genre, and then by the time they come out, the market's already full of incumbents, to the point where you basically can't really penetrate that market. And the people who like that sort of game know they like that sort of game. The people who don't like that sort of game know they don't like that sort of game. And suddenly you're left with a game that probably doesn't have a fantastic product market fit, even if it does have really killer IP. Just look at the difference between two games that are set in a Marvel property. One, Spider-Man, trying to be the perfect encapsulation of that sort of Peter Parker-like experience.
It is, for sure.
The other one, Marvel's The Avengers, with Spider-Man as a PlayStation exclusive.
Oh, jeez.
And look how those panned out differently. One company set forth to put you in the suit, to give you that experience. The other one set out to do that for loads of characters and make it be a live service loot shootery game, because ultimately this is all just an exercise to turn an amazing 20 to 40 or maybe 50 hour game into a subpar 500 plus hour game that you've spent so much time with that you feel like you may as well buy some cosmetics.
And
while of course
yeah.
they underdeliver on the seasonal content.
Yeah, because by the time they finish making this game, they go, we don't know how to make anything good anymore. Also, we've been working 80-hour weeks for the past 6 years trying to make this a reality because for some reason, something happened. I don't know if this is like, because I know what happens in the East as well. I don't know if this is some sort of like business, where like, I guess there's like a way business is taught and then that ends up spreading everywhere and your ideas end up, and everyone operates the same way instead of having some sort of independent thought or independent planning. People just kind of go, yeah, we'll just follow the business laws. There's something here that I just kind of realized that it's competition. It's because you were saying, there's loads of games and there's a saturated market. I remember when a saturated games market used to make me feel happy, and I used to be like a kid in the candy shop. Look at all of these video games I can have. These are all fantastic. But then now they don't want to be competition. They want to be the only game you play, which means they have to be vapid nightmares because you can't possibly make so much content that people want to play. You have to design systems that do that, and everyone designs the same system and they think they're getting it for free. They're not looking at Dead Cells and going, why is Dead Cells so replayed? Why is Hades so replayed? Why are these games lasting forever? Why is Diablo lasting forever with the seasonal updates? Why is PoE so strong? Why is Destiny so strong time after time? They don't bother asking themselves that question when they greenlight these games. They just go, that's the one that makes the money, do that. That's what it feels like. And it's just, it's not trying to coexist in a market. It's not trying to be a product on the shelf. Obviously, you go to your digital game store and go, oh, that looks interesting. I'll have that. Oh, and once I'm done with that, I'll have this one for later. Oh, and this one next week. Oh, very good. It's just buy one and then get put into the money milking tank. And that's where you live from now on. So, instead of actually trying to have instead of being a healthy part of the games market, they're like, we will have everyone.
And this is where I think I want to get to a point, right? So here we have the 23rd of March 2017 being the release date of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And of course, the previous year in October, that's when Titanfall 2 came out. This is just so, that's when, I suppose, a bunch of Respawn was suddenly free, okay? So PUBG comes out, but the Battle Royale format via, the Arma mod and the other zombie one from before, that's beginning to pick up speed. And this is what I want to bring up. Fortnite massive. Fortnite Save the World came out 25th of July 2017. And I think with it underperforming, but them having the development tools and the guts of a game there, Epic's like, new trend emerging market. Can we pivot this really quick? Yes, we can. Go. So they didn't decide to greenlight Fortnite when they saw that, that PUBG did well. They rapidly pivoted that over in the space of months, right? They moved heaven and earth to make that happen. So whenever Fortnite entered the market, not only is it different from the milsim roots, of PUBG, but also it happened very quick, so it was able to ride the wave. And then as you go on over time, like you see the other games are able to ride the wave because they come in pretty quick, like the Call of Duty Black Ops thing, I forget its name, which then they're successfully able to spin into Warzone. But then you think about all of the failed Battle Royales, where they just took a thing and quickly applied Battle Royale, to it. But after the fact, when it's already a saturated genre. And you find that those things don't work. I mean, look at Ubisoft trying to get the Battle Royale to work for them, and no. And you think about what are the ones that have been able to more like penetrate the market and do well. Well, you look at Naraka Blade Point, you look at Apex Legends. Apex came out 4th of February 2019. Pretty damn quick, all things considered, like with the scope of that game. Naraka Blade Point, like, that actually comes in with a different style of gameplay. You look at The Hunt, that's also coming in with a different style of gameplay. But I think the thing is, when you then look at so many, because this is like one example of a saturated genre where we see loads of winners and losers, you then look at kind of like the loot shootery market, and you can think about the winners and losers in that market, and you can also think about like, why have these ones like failed so much? Because ultimately, if you decided to spend, I suppose the thing, a Battle Royale game fundamentally, like they're expensive to run, but I think it's cheaper to get a Battle Royale out there than it's going to be to fundamentally do this Suicide Squad game. So you then think about like, what if shortly after PUBG came out, companies like, fine, we'll spend 5 years making a PUBG competitor. By the time it would come out, it would be too friggin' late. People would be tired of the genre. Those who like it were already entrenched in the thing that they like. And now we're in this situation with loot shooters where this game, look at when it's greenlit, look at all kind of like, this process here, like what happened with the Battle Royales. Think about how it's a harder game to make that's way more expensive. I mean, what was it, 100 million with Marvel's Avengers? God. It's like, yeah, obviously you are late to the party with something that people obviously no longer want anymore. And why did they have to do this? WB Games. Look what WB Games mandated onto Shadow of War. Yeah. And Shadow of War, when is that happening, right?
Oh, far too long ago, honestly. I remember looking at the Shadow of War release date and going, oh yeah, that game's reasonably recent, and then I had a heart attack when I saw it.
Yeah, so Shadow of War is 2017.
6 years ago?
Yeah, and when we look about 6 years ago, what do we see? We see more evil turning WB Games putting the loot boxes in Shadow of War, while likely at a similar time they're getting Rocksteady to go on this.
Yeah, it's all, to me, it is at the top level publishers just trying to make money instead of trying to make video games, and that's the case of like why bother? Why bother?
At this Arkham Knight. That released 2015,
yeah.
And Arkham Knight was still a challenging enough project,
definitely,
as we remember. And then Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, development 2016 to present. So this is a game that's like been in development from 2016 to a release in 2023.
God knows how many versions of this game have existed, and they've only taken what kind of works, or they've taken the least common denominator out of it. They've went, what's the bit that kind of we can put together and actually release so we don't actually lose all our jobs and don't release a game? It's the RPGified version with reused missions because, that mission was an interesting idea, but I don't think we have room for stealth because stealth is out because we've been developing this game for 5 years. Okay, we'll remove the stealth, and then what do we have? We've got 7 missions replayable. I have no idea how many is there. Could be a lot of content. Doesn't matter because people are going, RPG light, get it out of my face.
Yep.
I don't want to do with that. And when you dig into why, it's immediately obvious. It's not in any capacity designed to be fun. It's just designed to be, you're in the hamster wheel now, dickhead. Keep running until you're too tired and then probably quit playing video games for a long time.
Yet the thing is, it is fun probably when you pick it up first because Rocksteady are going to do it well, but then you'll very quickly realize what's actually going on. One funny fact, Matt, on October 26, 2022, the founders, Jamie Walker and Sefton Hill, left the studio.
I wonder why.
And to finish it off, I think this from Mr. Bug. Wanted to play the new game, extra motivated because it's Kevin Conroy's last performance as Batman. Battle Pass, co-op online, generic shooter combat, needs constant internet connection to work. Pain. And I think we all felt that. It sucks that it's Rocksteady's effort that is being kind of dashed against the wall here, because Rocksteady are obviously capable of great things, but let's hope that this serves as a lesson to the rest of the industry.
Yeah, the lesson is don't make RPGs unless you're making an RPG. If you're making an RPG, work away. Do it if you can. But if you're making a game that isn't an RPG, if you're making an action game, a character action game, an adventure game, keep the RPG out of it, because you can't do it properly, because you're not going to get the time. You're going to have, as this tweet shows, hello, I would like 5% damage to undead. If you make your game with the ability to meaningfully have an anti-undead build, go for it. But if that's not a part of the core player experience, all you're doing is wasting time and making everyone hate your game, because there's no point. There's no point in any of it. It's just there to be there for the sake of it. And everyone who actually like enjoys video games in the long term is going to play it and go, that kind of sucked.
Yeah, it's almost as if the extrinsic rewards of Battle Pass cosmetics and number go up over the core gameplay of the game. It's almost as if those were motivating for quite a long time, but now, as a collective population of people who play games, we are now burnt out on that particular incarnation. And there are still holdouts like Destiny, a game that is constantly trying to shake itself up, reinvent things a little bit. They've, you look at their Vidocs and their blog posts, they're evidently aware of those issues and the harm those can cause to their own game. But that's like one of the only successes. And you look at Borderlands, it's a loot shooter, but it's also designed to be single player, co-op, and also not a big, horrific live service full of battle passes. So that's really like it for the point of this video. This absolutely sucks that this is Kevin Conroy's beloved voice actor in a role that like was career defining, that people absolutely connected with. I think the extra painful cherry on top is that it had to go into a game that WB Games mandated to be like this. Clearly a game that was greenlit by them in the very era of the big old delicious loot boxes for orcs.
Yeah, I do have one question for those watching, because I really don't get excited for video games anymore by default. They have to prove that they're good.
Yeah.
And I don't play video games that are RPG-ish at all anymore, because they make me violently ill. As soon as I saw nail polish and Forspoken like give like 10% damage, I was like, why have you bothered with this? So I guess it asks, do you feel the same in any capacity? Do you feel the will to play video games slowly being choked out of you every time you pick up something? Go, is this fun? Yeah, but there's something about it that's draining my life energy at its very core. Do you feel the same?
Cleanse your palate with indie games.
Go play Hi-Fi Rush. Ugh.
With that said, have a great day. Just because we're aware of this shit doesn't mean that we don't enjoy games and we can't find games that we like. So keep that in mind. Of course, thanks for today's sponsor for helping support the channel. And with that said,